The events industry is turning to virtual events to face the crisis generated by the COVID-19 pandemic and the massive cancellation of physical events. Events Case wanted to support the industry by doing what it does best, putting technology at the forefront. You can now run virtual or hybrid events in minutes. There are no delays and no technical complications as we offer top-notch customer support along the way. With the new Smart TV interface in Events Case's Agenda module for both the web and the event app, event participants can access different virtual sessions with ease. As the event organizer, you simply need to add the link of your favorite streaming or video conference supplier within each session. Adding a link enables the play button for each session. Interaction amongst online attendees is also possible since the Events Case platform supports Q&A, chat and surveys in real time. Albeit from a distance, networking is still fully supported within Events Case through the new video link function in our one-to-one meeting scheduler, as well as through private messages, news feeds and forums. Events Case is an easy-to-use, global, modular, multi-language and secure event management software. Discover all our products at www.eventscase.com.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode 18 actually, of the Event Tech Talk Show. Before I get into welcoming our guest today, which he will be giving his practical tips to improve on your last virtual event, a quick reminder, if you have missed any of the back catalogue of episodes of the Event Tech Talk Show, you can go to eventtechtalks.com and you can grab the audio or the video interview version of that episode. And obviously, all episodes are available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all the other major podcasting channels. So go there, subscribe, give us a thumbs up if you have 5 minutes, and maybe listen to an episode on the commute or on a bike or on your way to your next in-person event maybe. And also a quick reminder, Event Tech Live London registration is open now for our hybrid event across the 1st to the 5th of November. So it's 5 digital days combined with 2 physical days across the 3rd and the 4th of November. We are back at the Old Truman Brewery in London, hosting you in person, as well as broadcasting all of the content from that event live into our virtual event platform. It's free to register, so if you can make it online, fantastic. If you can make it in person, even better. So, as I said, joining me today is Shawn Cheng, Client Solutions Manager at MCI Group. Shawn, welcome to today's episode.
Hey Adam, thanks for having me, and for those who are watching, thanks for watching, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Shawn, and I'm based in Vancouver, Canada. I had a day job, which is I work for MCI Group, that we execute different type of experience for association, for corporation, or for whoever who had a need of engagement their community. And I'm also just during COVID, just me and my friends who starting a passion project, and that passion project I think is about a year now. So I'm also the co-founder of Event Prosperity, which is a community of event professionals who come together regularly, and we test and play around technology in the event industry space and provide our honest feedback.
That's amazing, mate. Actually, just on Event Profs Break Shit, you've actually covered quite a lot of the event technology platforms that people will be familiar with. Spatial Chat, Swapcard, Shindig, Rally and Twine. Could you expand a little bit on that concept? What made you come up with that?
Well, this whole thing starting with the frustration. I think many event planner can relate. Last year is there are just too many demos. And then the demo with technology company, unfortunately, because of how the way sales work, there's always a formula that you always need to go through them, especially if you are sales who are not really familiar with the space. And it just very frustrated for us that it so sounds like the same, or seems like the same, or we want to ask questions, but there's no chance for us to ask those questions. So it was actually starting with a platform which is actually not on the blog post called Wonder last year. So last year, Wonder was actually called a different name. I believe they called U-Try back then. And Wonder is similar like spatial chat. So they are like they so-called kind of a proximity chat that people have a dot, you can walk around. When you meet people, video come out, you can talk, right? So it's like a real networking. I still remember very obviously is my friend Anne, who's work for Twine right now, that she asked them how many people you can host, and then they tell her unlimited. And then that was like, okay. So we can, I think we gathered quite a few, like definitely more than 100 people. And then we broke the platform, I think in 15 minutes. There's so many lagging and a lot of things that they didn't thinking about. And then that's kind of how brought us, get us the inspiration actually is, oh, you know what, this is actually a thing that I think our community would really like. And then we're starting to doing this regularly now. We had actually, it's funny you mentioned about Twine. As you can see, that was kind of the official first one that we are doing. I'm actually happy to announce we are doing another one with them in October. They have a brand new function is about to launch, I believe today, that we will actually testing it out. So, and since we are live here, we're always looking for technology company who are willing to join the crazy ride with us, because we know this is not for everyone, and sometimes the experience might not be comfortable, I need to say, because that's the whole point is we're trying to find your bug, right? Trying to find which the part that we don't like, right? But hopefully at the end that they will be able to find the benefit of it to continue to improve their product, and then that will make us as a planner who like to use their product.
It's such a great idea. So many people start out in the event tech space and they don't have the bandwidth to test themselves, they don't have the quality assurance, and it's great to have event profs come in and actually do that for them live and give them live feedback, ultimately so they can make it better. I think it's a great idea. Out of interest, Shawn, is there something that keeps recurring that you've found personally? Is there a commonality between it? Something that kind of keeps popping up that is the same across all of these platforms?
I would say actually by now that what we find interesting is, and which is shouldn't be a surprise for everyone, is how important it is for onboarding. How important it is for communicate to your user on how to actually using your product. And a lot of time, especially I think at this point, we all experience a lot of different platform, different technology. Sometimes we feel our audience might already know how to do those, how to use it. Like people will know how to use Zoom, right? No, you're wrong. And so what we find out with a lot of the event that we organize, that if the company actually invests with manpower, so they sometimes they have their staff also join, or they have actually started their staff to record introduction video some sort, that will actually make the experience a bit more smoother. So instead of a lot of question about I cannot log in, I don't know how to move around, there's like I'm lost, those will be avoided, and then people will be able to step into the next phase, which is actually thinking about how to using them. So that would be, I think, would be a good common feedback I would say to the technology company are that no matter how you think people are comfortable with technology right now, it's still very important to go back to the basic and have a really proper communication.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you said there. So for those brave event technology companies, event tech startups that are listening in or watching this podcast, this episode on demand, reach out to Shawn and the rest of the team. Shawn can be found on Shawn C Event on Twitter. Get your tech in front of these guys, have it tested live and have them break it if that's possible. So today's episode, Shawn, it's your practical tips to improve on the last virtual event. I'm going to bring up your LinkedIn post, which I think is a really good starting point. You actually posted the other day that the industry is actually rushing off a little bit to this hybrid format and could possibly be leaving behind a really valuable gold mine in virtual events. For those that are watching or listening, I'll link to this in the show post notes so that you can actually see Shawn's LinkedIn post live and the comments, because it got a lot of engagement actually from the community there. Shawn, but could you actually elaborate on why you posted that and why you feel this way?
I think it just, first of all, like I was very surprised the engagement that I get from that post. That was definitely not intentional, and appreciate everyone who look at it and actually provide your comments so that conversation can start it. But I posted something last week is just about like, well, everyone is talking about hybrid events, and as much as I love hybrid event, I actually execute hybrid event before. I just feel that also people kind of get just rushing out from the virtual space very fast. At least that's a lot of the people, but I feel that they are. Everyone talking about hybrid, but what they really talking about is actually in person, plus some sort of digital component. And then that people trying to figure out what that means, right? That I find it will be a shame that if we just complete, like if we rush out too fast, from the virtual space, because as you know, regulation is still exists for many countries. International travel is still not as what will be sustained for a lot of the business when they rely on international business traveler. And many company or organization that might still heavily need to stay in the virtual space in some sort of form. And a lot of the thing that we did last year that I think what happened last year is we actually identify what's wrong. I think what happened last year is we identified a lot of the challenge in the virtual space. And I think some people should stay on a little bit longer to try to, bring up some solution or improve or solve those challenges in the virtual space, because like I am not a video gamer person, but my brother are. And I know, and my brother even that young, and he's over 30 right now as well. So like those people, they like the people who are passionate about video game, what that is part of their life, they don't have an engagement issue, right? Like when we're talking about virtual event, that there's no engagement, there's no real engagement. You're wrong. They have very high engagement, probably higher than a lot of our in-person event. So the things there are a potential out there, and that shouldn't be. That's what I say is a gold mine that we might leave behind. That that is a place people might want to stay a little bit longer, because you might actually find more value than simply just rushing back the old way.
I think it's a really interesting point. We are probably rushing on a little bit too quickly. Dahlia's actually posted a really interesting statement here that hybrid should be deleted from our vocabulary. Do you agree with that? Or is it a really overused term that we've seen over the last 18 months in the industry?
I think it's definitely overused. It's like pivot was overused last year. But respectfully disagree that I think hybrid is still a thing, and very much so that some organization or some planners should invest your time and resource to try to make it work. But I feel it shouldn't be everyone. And I feel, and also that kind of hybrid is kind of like a hot topic right now, right? So if you are doing trading in your private life, then when a stock is high, what you would do is you will sell or you will not do anything. That's kind of what the feeling I have right now, at least personally.
Do you have a preferred or defined type of event in your book now? Like, do you see an event that is the perfect mix of hybrid?
I think I personally really think a hot and spoke type of hybrid will work really well with a lot of the association type of organization, that you do small hub in person, and you maybe you connect or maybe you don't. That that you have that sort of engagement going, right? But I also feel, the traditional model of like the most common one, at least I experienced, is you had the big in-person event, but you also equally had have a live audience virtually on the platform who have their own programming, but they also have live streaming from the in-person spot. It's actually what Olympic are doing, right? I know, for example, my friend Sina, who's watching, who might disagree that this is a hybrid event, that she will say this is a broadcast event. But I think Olympic is a really perfect way to look at if you're looking for some sort of hybrid in that way, that you had a big in person, but you also equally had a big kind of a virtual audience engaging a different way. The big challenge for hybrid is the money, right? Like if you want to do that, that means you are technically running two parallel events. And a lot of the time is you don't need to connect. And I think that's another thing is right now, a lot of the conversation on hybrid, what I participate, that I can see a lot of discussion is about how you connect the audience, right? How do you connect the virtual audience and the in-person audience? But I also would like to challenge, do they need to be connected, right? Like a lot of the time, they probably don't, right? Like I attend a few virtual events. Actually, I attend a few events for the past few weeks. They are hybrid events. So, they have in-person location somewhere else. And because I'm in Vancouver, I can only attend virtually. For me, I attend because I want to watch session. I actually, just being very obvious here, like very honest here, I actually don't like to connect with people out there. Like, so if they are scheduled like a networking event for us to talk to them, I will skip, because that's not the whole point for me to join that virtual event, right? I know it's very different for everyone, and it's very different. Like there are a few virtual events that I join. I don't really care about the content, but I want to connect with people. Then my behavior will be a little bit different, right? But that just show how complex a hybrid event need to be, because they need to serve so many different needs and objectives from their audience. So then you come down to the question: do you really need it, right? And so what's wrong with keep them separately? What's wrong with that?
I think you've got a really good point there. Right now, we have to decide, where does my event sit in this event mix, especially if it's been a predominantly physical event in the past. We had a comment from Rachel actually that I think is a really good definition. She has it as a blended event. What blend do I need to make my event? Is it more digital? Is it more physical, in person? Or is it an even split? Personally, if I'm honest, I don't think it's a question that we can actually explain in a few weeks or months.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would even say, I think next year will be really the year we see more, which is fair. Like people talking about hybrid event and strategy right now, and they will execute next year. And then we will probably get a better idea on how the common way people are doing, right? Because this year is still really much, I think, beside US and you like that, I don't think like a larger events are able to happen even right now. Like in Canada, we can, but in a very restricted way, and that's still very inconvenient for many of the delegates. That I know a lot of my clients that they still choose to stay in virtual space this year. That do they like it? They don't, but that's how the reality is. And then that's kind of come down to one I think the topic we want to talk about today, right, is like how yes, they're staying virtual, but you as a planner, we should be able to, and we need to be able to deliver a different type of virtual experience, a better virtual experience for them. Like the one that I did in this summer, like I really like one of the comments from the audience after the events is, I will 100% prefer to meet my college in person, but this virtual event is by far the best experience I have. Those are type of the comment I think is what we should aim for, that you're just doing something different and more innovative than what you did last year, that you rushed to put something together.
I think about this like when producing events for the film industry. They focus on the content, and then it's up to the audience to decide how they actually engage with that. Some go to the cinema, have the experience of being there on the big screen. Others will wait for it to, come out on Netflix. And others will choose to watch it on their own, or invite some friends round, or even invite friends to go to the cinema and enjoy it as a group and experience that together. And we're not far off as event producers delivering content in the same way on different platforms. And ultimately, the way that people choose to engage with that content and in whatever format is ultimately up to them. I think if we're honest, the major challenge that most people are facing in the industry at the moment is, where does the budget and the sponsorship dollars go? I think that's the biggest thing, where people are swaying back to which side of hybrid that they go back to, bringing in the physical side of the event. Many have not had the chance or the time to be able to figure out how those sponsorship dollars... Many have not had the time or bandwidth to figure out how those physical sponsorship dollars translate online and achieve the same income or the same value proposition. I think if they did, many people will be slightly reluctant to actually rush back to a physical side of the event when you have to consider the complications, especially with COVID still around. We have to admit it's safer and somewhat less disruptive to actually host an event online over a physical venue. Do you agree? Do you think people are swayed by the sponsorship dollars at the moment?
I mean, the 100%, right? Especially for, but then again, that comes down to the way, I would say the way event usually get funded in the past, no matter it's association event or corporate event, right? It's depending on the sponsorship dollar. And there's nothing wrong with it, right? But then I think the question right now is really, last year when everyone rushing to virtual, yes, your sponsorship dollar was down, and many sponsors come back to you and say they don't see the ROI, right? They don't see the engagement. People, like no one. I think by now, I think we can semi-comfortable say that at least right now, all the virtual booths out there in the market, they are not effective, right? I'm not saying they will always be ineffective, but at least right now, I haven't seen any of the virtual booths that is effective. But then the question actually should be, but we should not stop here, right? We should not then say, okay, it's not effective, so we need to go back to the traditional booths, right? We should continue to ask the question is, why is not effective? Is it because the technology are not doing well, so the technology need to improve? Or is actually because the exhibitor and then the sponsor that they are staffing the wrong staff, right? Because maybe it's because they are staffing their sales to be on the virtual space, and then the sales complain no one can visit. Because really a virtual booth is like an online customer support portal. So you might need to have your marketing or community manager team to be staffing, so they can try to actively engage audience in a digital and virtual space. Or maybe that is not the answer. Then maybe the answer should be you should actually not looking at virtual booths, but heavily bet on content and advertising, right? I was talking to my client sometime this week on sponsorship as well. It's like company also need to. That's kind of what I feel. Sometimes from a company perspective, you might want to actually divide the team who focus on engaging on virtual and team engaging on in person, because it's a different skill set and different way to do it. Like for your virtual event activation team, they might be a bunch of creator and marketer who are familiar with digital platform, and they are good with coming up with short click video, like they know how to create those attractive interactive content that will grab people's eyeball, and their ROI is the click rate. Maybe their ROI is not how many leads that I created with that person, and the ROI is not about understand what you need. Maybe the ROI is the click rate, and the ROI is the subscription rate or download rate, right? It's very different, and I totally understand and respect why a lot of companies are frustrated, because they have the wrong person to doing the wrong job, right? Like there are a lot of the salespeople are amazing salespeople that like they can met me with like that we never met, and in 15 minutes they know everything about me, that I don't know how they do it, but asking those open-ended questions and they will know more about me than what I need. But they need that environment to do it. And just at least for now, I don't think that is what a virtual space really are. And so it might be different, right? So that's kind of what I feel is, the question we should continue to ask those questions and dive deeper. That we identified a lot of those questions last year. And I think we should continue explore more, and then starting to experience and try to come up with different solutions rather than make a judgment on this is not working, we need to move on.
So yeah, what I'm taking away from that, Shawn, do you think we should, as event planners, as the event owners, out to companies and asking them to invest in our events, do you think we need to rethink and repackage the value proposition and present it in a much different way? My analogy there would be Forbes magazine. Nobody's looking at the ROI from being featured in Forbes magazine because the value is actually very apparent. People understand what that value proposition is when they're associated with that media brand and be presented to that audience. The opportunity to talk to them about your niche, your industry, your product, or your business. I doubt anybody's looking on a spreadsheet for the ROI that they got from the Forbes magazine feature. It's presented in a totally different way. So do you think we need a different mindset when it comes to physical events and lead capture, qualification versus online? And it's a different position and play, and therefore a different strategy when it comes to these companies engaging with the audience?
I would say yes, but I also understand fully like how difficult it is. That understand that sometimes it's not about we want to change, right? It's our client, right, or our committee that they don't, or our sponsor, right? Like they don't understand they need to change the way they measure their success or their investment. But someone need to start, right? Like I think like one thing I learned a lot from like by working an agency is you will gladly take small win, and you will not dream of dramatic big win. That's unfortunately, but that just, at least that was my experience. Like you are not moved the mountain overnight. It's more like a needle, or it's more like you step 1 foot and you step out 2 feet back. Right? And it's always this type of conversation with your client, or sometimes with your own company as well, right? But someone need to start it, and I feel that should be the mindset that we always have, and that's how I think we can continue to improve as a community of a planner in the industry. Is we are, I think a lot of the comment about the event industry, I think we can all agree, is they say we are somehow react to change slowly, right? Like we always joke, especially we both really passionate about technology, that we know that like we always joke about whatever happened at CES this year probably will show up at event space in 30 years, right? That's just that's kind of how kind of the slow path that we adapting into this type of change. But why you need to be like this, right? Like as a planner or supply, whatever your title or position you think you are, is I think we should all, if we think this is ridiculous, like why 30 years takes so long, then we should all take our part by pushing that a little bit further, but with the understanding that it will not come overnight, right? Like, but with everyone all do a little bit more, and then suddenly something became a standard, right? And then for example, just using just using Zoom as the example, right? Like I think last year everyone is using Zoom. No one can question about it. And we are talking about how a lot of limitation that Zoom come in terms for deliver virtual content or virtual engagement. Vice versa to right now, they make a lot of improvement, but a lot of the limitation is still out there, right? But we also know that at least by right now, a lot of the planners are figuring out a way how to work around with it. And then that knowledge has been shared. And I think right now, even at least just my experience this year, that when I watch different content experience, that they're on Zoom, but you just feel the virtual experience better. You feel the content flow is better. And more people starting to have pre-roll video, no matter how basic they are. And that small thing changed or increased the viewing enjoyability dramatically. And those are the things are not big. It's not everyone had a production studio able to produce their virtual content, as much as we both love to see more like that, right? But at home, people are able to produce better virtual content now. And I think we should not stop here, and we should keep pushing.
Yeah, totally. I have to agree. It's those small incremental improvements to video production. All of those incremental improvements add up to a really big amount. All of a sudden, you can have a much, much more highly polished and produced event and experience for the audience, which means that's the thing that's lasting in their mind. Ultimately, it's the experience that they have of the event, the reason they'll come back later on down the line. That's some really good advice, Shawn. It's those little incremental improvements that add up to a really big difference and change in the way that we deliver events. Just one point there that you made. I sometimes feel that the tech may get a little bit more flack than it really should, because as an industry, our expectations of where the tech should be was way ahead of where the platforms were at the time, at the beginning of the pandemic. But really, those platforms were at a point which was the demand of the industry, really. Nobody was in high demand of virtual event platforms nearly 2 years ago. There were some companies that were doing stuff, but then all of a sudden, demand outstripped supply. And the platforms did a lot to innovate and change and improve based on the feedback that were coming in from the industry and their customers at the time. So things like, we need session chat, we need polls, we need quizzes, we need one-to-one networking meetings, all these things. And obviously, that personally, I'm biased. I have Event Tech Live and the Event Tech Talk Show, so I'm going to somewhat defend the platforms. But I really do think they should be given a round of applause for the amount of work that they put in such a short period of time that allowed us to continue delivering our events, even though online. And honestly, the events that we're producing virtually now are worlds apart from those that we were producing 18 months ago, even as ourselves as an industry. And that in part is to do with the platforms themselves as much as it is to do with the event managers and event producers. Now, this isn't practical tips for virtual events, but I know it's something that you're really passionate about, and that's sustainability. And I want to pose this question to you, because I feel that this is something that might crop up often. And that is that all of a sudden people, because they have a virtual offering or a hybrid offering, this is a tick box in sustainability. And I hope that this is not the thing that people say, hey, we're a sustainable event because we have the option for people not to come physically. What do you think about that? What's the role that hybrid events can play when it comes to sustainability from your perspective?
I would say, the click bar of by having a virtual event that I'm green is definitely a bit too narrow, I would say. But I will also say it definitely worth to putting as part of your overall sustainable strategy, right? Because you do offer a chance to reduce carbon footprint and reduce all the travel related energy waste by offering a virtual option for your delegates to attend. But this shouldn't, in my opinion, this shouldn't be the only option of your overall experience. I am passionate about the project, but I am not an expert of it. And then I will highly suggest a lot of people to, like, if you are as well, follow a few people in the industry. You know, I think Shawn McKenzie was amazing, and then I think UK and Scotland is pretty on the leading part, especially I think Scotland is going to host the COP26, right? It's like one of the biggest sustainable conferences happening up. And I think when you're talking about sustainability, you should, it is a conversation about partnership with all your stakeholder. I think venue and destination play a very, very critical role to it. And it's kind of like what you just said earlier about the tech platform and the planner, right? There's really no one is the real hero. Both are, right? It needs to be a continued conversation between both. I do want to mention that I think on sustainability front, a lot of the time that we kind of forget the contribution your audience can do. We did something 2 years ago when I organized one of the live events, actually with ECAT Congress, that we did something very new. It was very basic and very last minute at the conference, but it was something that that I am very proud of, and then I will continue to do it for any live event if I'm able to organize another live event. Oh my God. It's called sustainability checklist for your audience. So what we did is we actually come up with the checklist, and then we tie them with UN SDG goal. So, you know, the Sustainable Development Goal, I think there are 24 or 18 of them. I apologize, I forgot the number. And then we tie them in, and we basically send that, we have that in the app, and then we send that to the delegates, and we encourage them to using it. And there are a few are using them, which we are very happy about. And those are very simple. You know, you can open them every day, and you say, like, do I choose to walk to the venue or take the shuttle bus, right? Did I bring my own water bottle, or I need to buy a water bottle, right? Did I choose to have a vegetarian meal today or not, right? Now, those are like very simple things, but those are the things add up. And like at the end of the event, we actually announce, because again, this is another proof of how technology can enhance not just the experience, but actually overall impact of something good, right? Because at the end, we are able to analyze those data that coming in, and then be able to come up with kind of a very basic line understanding of, you know, at this week, how many water be safe. You know, like this week, because of how many people choose to walk rather than take the bus, this is potentially the air pollution that we help support. And so those are the things that and those are super simple to implement. And then I think like I'm really proud with our team who come up with the idea. It was a very small, it was very basic when we did it 2 years ago. But you know, those kind of the thing that I think sometimes we forget that, you know, we can do a lot as an organizer. You know, you can buy the carbon offsite, and then you can try to do the big and bold thing, right? But sometimes it's also good to engage with your audience, especially if it's the right crowd. You know, if the crowd is also very into sustainable and the earth, that type of issue, then this is something also will make you feel happy, and their engagement will be higher as well. So it's kind of a win-win situation.
I think that's really, really important. That your point there is that it's sometimes the simple things, and if we do the simple things and remind people of the simple things, even just simply just asking people, hey, can you walk to the venue? Can you do this? Can you do that? That enacts as a reminder, and therefore, you know, most people are happy to do that. I certainly would. And I think, you know, it's, if we don't measure it, we can't change it, can we? So we've got to understand those little incremental things that we're doing. Hey, if we ask 10,000 people to walk to our venue, how much carbon is not emitting by them not getting public transport? Interestingly, Shawn, my question to you is that checklist available anywhere for the listeners or the viewers to be able to grab a hold of? Because I think that's something that would probably be really useful.
Unfortunately, I'm not really sure. I need to go find it. Or you can ask Ika, because this technically is their property.
We'll do that then. We'll ask Ika.
Yeah.
My final question to you, Shawn, and this is a personal question. I mentioned to you this at the beginning of the podcast. Something that I've been liking to do is ask a very personal question to my guests on a little tool, a little piece of technology, or something like that they're finding helpful. And I'll start off because I'm a big fan of introducing new things to the audience. So one of the things that I have been kind of a real fan of is a new platform called Kamua, if I'm pronouncing that right. And what we're using this for, or starting to use this for at Event Industry News, is a really quick automated process of taking podcasts like this or other footage, so let's say our Event Tech live footage, and automatically resizing it through AI. Now, that might not sound complicated, but for people that don't necessarily have editing skills, it's a like myself, it's a really good tool. But what's really interesting to me is that it tracks what it would deem to be the main character, as we're kind of seeing on screen here. For anybody listening, please do go and check out the video podcast or kamua.com. And it's tracking the main character. So for this is really helping us to become more efficient in taking the existing content that we've got and producing it and repurposing it for social media platforms and things like that. Is there anything that you're using in your personal life, and it doesn't have to be a platform like this, it could be a small tool, it could be anything. Is there anything that you rely on to really help you with your day-to-day kind of running on MCI?
I will say for me, I actually right now really rely on an app called Clockify. That's how we work at MCI, that we track our hour, because like as agency we need to track our hour, and I'm really happy. And we used to have a very outdated. We first of all, when I first started, we used Excel. And then we went into a CRM system, which is very outdated and very hard to use. So I'm really happy that our managers introduced Clockify, I think last year, and it was life changing. That I love it, and it was so easy to use. And this is what I personally like technology, is like they're just so easy to use. You don't even need training. Like I don't need training on Clockify that I figure it out, and those are the technology I really like. I am also a big fan of a meditation app called Simple Habit. So they're kind of like Calm, but they are also, I think, AI power type of. I don't know whether that is true or not, but they call themselves AI power. That they will recommend meditation to you. So their app is almost like a Netflix, but with a bunch of meditation classes that I using quite often. What I really like them is they had actually a function which is like a menu that you can choose something very, very basic. And then they even had like a SOS type of meditation, which if you really, really feel stressed, just click it, and then they will have something to help you calm down, which is very helpful. They have a free version. I think you can pay for it, but they also have free version that already have tons of different medication clip that can get you through different type of situation. Those are the two that I'm using.
Well, thank you very much, Shawn. I guess I asked for one and you gave us two. Shawn, thank you very much for coming on today and spending some time with us. For anybody watching, do go out, check out Shawn on Twitter. I'm an avid follower of his. He's in my Twitter feed with notifications enabled because he shares some real gems there. And check out his LinkedIn as well and follow him there because just like the post that we showed earlier, he's got some really strong thoughts on virtual events and hybrid events and where they're going forward. So I'm sure he's going to be a wealth of knowledge. Check out Event Prof Break Shit. Get involved as an event prof. Put your tech forward. If you're an event technology company, let them break it. We actually have somebody here who I feel like Shawn should join the team. We call him the Tech Terminator. He is our in-house person that breaks the platforms that we use more often than not. Everybody that's tuned in today, thank you very much. Thank you to Tess, Sina, William, Dahlia, Dijon, everybody, Rachel that's posted comments, Mark Gordon, James Morgan, all the way from Saudi Arabia. Thank you for engaging with today's episode. And once again, thank you to Shawn for coming on. and we'll see you in the next episode.